It took years of work for David Robert Jones to emerge as one of the most influential figures in music. Growing up in the austerity of post-war Britain, he came of age in the swinging 60s. He was born in the Brixton suburbs of London in 1947 to mother Margaret and Barnardo's charity worker Hayward John Jones.
David invited me down to his parents' place. There I was at 14 with this kind of man from another planet as far as I was concerned. It sounds silly now, but I'd never been to a working class house. I was in culture shock, but that was my own limited upbringing. His house, which was tiny, and the two main seats of the parents who were there, both facing the television, and I remember the mother made us some tuna fish sandwiches, but the parents didn't speak. I'd never been into such a cold house. This is what shocked me. I'd never visited a house where people didn't laugh and make merry and be joyous, because it was just, it was like walking around with cement blocks on your shoulders.
I met his dad. It was sort of petit bourgeois. People say he was working class, but I don't think so. It didn't strike that way to me.
David said to me then, and I'll never forget this, he said, whatever it takes, I want to get out of this place. I never, ever want to grow up here.
David was introduced to rock and roll at an early age through his elder brother Terry's record collection. The recurring theme of mental instability in Bowie's early work connects to Terry, who was institutionalized with schizophrenia and committed suicide in 1985.
He did go and see his brother in the mental hospital. I didn't realize the enormity of the impact on the family, actually. And after that, he never mentioned his brother.
Well, I never met the brother because he was institutionalized then. But I did meet his mum, and she was just a very average lady.
I feel now quite sorry for the mother.
She was very stiff, very starchy. You had no chance of getting to know her properly. She was very reserved.
Quite often later on, several years later, the mother would be ringing up while David was starting to get more and more famous, and he often didn't want to speak to her. So Angie, of course, being the perfect hostess, would be the buffer to say, oh, he's busy or can't make it. So I don't know that he was that close with his parents.
By the time he was 6, the Jones family had moved to the suburban streets of Bromley in Kent. David attended Burnt Ash Primary School and showed aptitude in singing and playing the recorder.
It's inspiring how we went to our school.
I think you're possibly right, the most famous ex-pupil of the school. 20, 30 years ago, he was thought of as quite radical.
David Bowie appeared on the film Labyrinth.
Personally, I didn't understand him.
David Jones was recognised at school as much for his vividly artistic dance as he was for his vocals and flair for instruments.
I don't recall anyone having lessons. You just listened to your records, if you could get any from America, and played along with them or sang along with them.
It's rather disturbing because when you're young you think so much is important, including oneself. But as you get older, I think you find less and less is important, apart from some very fundamental things. One of them being a love of one's fellow man, and a care for their survival, and a care for one's immediate family, then friends, and then wider, like a circle, like ripples in water.
After failing his 11+ exams, David Jones attended Bromley Technical College, where he studied art, music and design. He displayed an early interest in aliens, creating a UFO magazine, and would later claim to have seen battalions of alien craft.
Angie and I think we were in England, And Bowie rings up from America saying he's just spoken to somebody who's been to Roswell, the place where the aliens landed, and he said, I know that there's one there, and he rang especially to say, you know, this is definitely it, the alien has landed, it's in cold storage in some government bunker somewhere, and he absolutely believed it, and so did we, because he said he'd seen it.
During David Jones' adolescence, there was one indelible incident in 1962 which would forever change his image.
The incredibly photogenic eyes were partly a result of his being punched by his friend, George.
It was an unintended damage I did to his eye when I was 15. It was over a girl, and it was a silly thing, and he said afterwards, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have done it, but it was just one of those stupid things you do when you're a kid, and I didn't go around hitting people in the eye as a hobby. It wasn't something I did, you know, it was just once, and that was it. I never, ever, you know, wanted to. I felt awful afterwards that, you know, it's made him quite distinctive in the end. Fortunately, he did say later that I did him a favour.
It just changed the look of the eye. But for fashion reasons, this is magnetic. So bizarrely, he owed George for hitting him. But they remained friends, and that's the important thing.